Welcome and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Rausch, your own personal sales maven, here to offer you tips and strategies and techniques to really master your sales conversation. Today, we're going to be talking about using AI in sales, when to use it, what to let it say for you, and where are those places where you should be talking only for yourself. So, have you ever used AI for something and maybe sent a follow-up email with it, but then got crickets because when you looked back at it, it didn't really sound like you? Like one of the things that we need in sales is to be genuine, to be authentic. And I know some people don't resonate with that word authentic because they think it's too overused. And yet I kind of feel like in this day and age, being authentic is so critical. I've always felt that about sales, but especially now with the AI tools that are out there. Now, don't get me wrong. I love AI. I use it all the time in my business. Daily, I'm using it for things. But there are some places where it's really important to recognize that people are buying from you and they're making decisions to hire you, not AI. Because if they can do it with AI, they don't need you. So you don't want to ever take yourself out of the equation. AI should be there to assist, but don't rely on it to be your closer. And if you are, chances are people are going to start feeling that disconnect if they haven't already. One of the greatest compliments I will say is when somebody schedules a consult call with me and we get on the call and I often get this where they'll be like, oh my gosh, you're just like how you are on the podcast, or you're just like how you were when I watched this video of you, or whatever that is. And it's like, well, yeah, because it's me. But that video or that podcast, that was the thing that drew them to me. So if I just have them engage with an AI assistant as a way to hire, there's going to be a disconnect. And I don't know if you've ever met somebody where you felt that, right? Like you have this experience or you have this perception of them, and then you meet them in person and it feels like they're not even the same person, right? I know I've had that with somebody before where I was a listener and just the way they came across on their podcast. But then when you met them in person, it was like night and day, like not even the same. And it just felt like, oh, well, now that feels a little like inauthentic, or it feels like they're just not genuine, or I don't really know what I'm going to get. So I'm not going to hire that person. So it's just something to think about. All right. So today in this episode, we're going to be talking about when to use it, places to really like help it assist you in the sales process, but also what do you do in those moments when the deal is on the line and the conversation matters? If, I always say like the people who hire me are not the people who just put up a website and have a shopping cart and people go there and they just click buy. Like they don't need me. But that isn't the case with many of my clients. If you are offering some type of a service, coaching, leadership trainings, if a designer, they're that person is the person who is going to pay you money. They are not going to want to just go to your website and click buy. And they're not going to want to engage with just some AI generated bot that can answer a question for them and then hit buy. They're going to want to know and see and experience you. And so having sales skills is so crucial because you need to be able to get into a live conversation with somebody because you don't have a bot in your ear going, say this now, say that now. Okay, do this, because it's just you in that conversation. So having these skills of being able to close, being able to recognize objections and what to say to overcome them, being able to recognize a buying signal, being able to lay out an offer and issue that closing invitation, that is so critical to your success. And I suspect if you're listening to this podcast, you offer some kind of a service or something that does require you to engage and interact with people. So you also don't want to let I guess they call them soft skills, right? But to me, they're like the most essential skills, like what's the word? Now I just totally blew this. um, I can't think of the word. When you let your muscles go, like that's what I think is happening right now because we're relying too heavily on AI and thinking that it's going to do everything for us. But in reality, that's just not the case. Okay, so if you want to continue to grow your business, if you want to continue to attract the right clients to you, and there is some component of you that is important in that sale, you you do not want to let this go. You don't want to just rely on AI 100% to close your opportunities. And here's like a way to recognize when maybe this is what's going on for you. I had this happen with a client recently where she was using AI to write her outbound outreach for her prospecting, business development, right? And she was just getting crickets. And, when she was looking at it, she's looking at these messages going, well, what AI wrote was better than what I could come up with, but not getting any responses. And so when she came to me and I started looking at them, I was like, well, it's just missing some of the pieces, some of the things that I teach, right? It's missing, you're not asking any questions. You're way overusing I statements. You're using words. AI picks words that are very common that don't elicit engagement. They don't encourage people to respond. So with a few tweaks, like she's got the base there, right? Like she's got the outline of the message, but now let's put the authentic piece in it. Let's put a little bit of her into the message. Let's make sure that it comes across like a human wrote this, not a bot. Um, and then she started getting responses. And then those responses led to live prospecting calls, right? And those calls, those live calls, that's where she's going to close the sale, not just in that initial email outreach. So you have to do something to pique their interest in the email outreach, but you've got to be able to get on a call with somebody, a Zoom or whatever you want to reference it. And they have to understand that it's a person that you're dealing with. I found this a lot in my corporate career because I worked with a lot of, you know, companies that were very prestigious, right? Like I sold to NASA, I sold to Hewlett Packard, I sold to Facebook, I sold to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I can go on and on. And I had a business card at one point in my career. I was working for Hitachi and Hitachi America, one of the largest companies in the world at that point. Very recognizable name. Now, also recognizable for all different types of stuff. So Hitachi, worldwide made all kinds of things, everything from like tractor equipment to technology. I was on the technology side. And so people would always be like, well, you have, Hitachi on your business card. So it must be so easy to get appointments with, these large companies. But this was the piece that I always felt like people didn't understand is that even though their business card and my business card had like a prestigious name on it, in reality, I was selling to a person. It wasn't even always the decision maker, right? There was also the information gatherer, there was the gatekeeper, there was all these pieces. And if you act like you're selling to a company, you often aren't very successful in sales because it's people, it's interactions, it's person to person. Nobody wants to be treated like a wallet. Nobody wants to be treated like the name on their business card, the company name. Like there is identity there. So it's like that was always kind of a differentiator for me is I never looked at it as like what the name of the company was. It was like, oh, well, that's Rebecca at, XYZ company, or that's John. And, this is the interaction that the way that John likes to interact and engage. So I'm going to adjust my style to be comfortable for him to interact and engage with me. Right. These were so important this I ability to engage with the person. And unless you have a bot that's buying for you and a bot that's selling to you. And then at some point, why are you even in the equation? Like, we're not there yet. So think about this from a tool standpoint. Is this helping you? Are there some places where you're having some disconnect with people? They're not engaging with you in the same way. Now, it's harder and harder to engage because we are so overwhelmed because people are using, a lot of different tools and techniques out there, mostly tools. Sometimes I think the technique is lacking, but there's a lot of tools that are being used right now. And so that usually becomes bombardment, right? Like people get bombarded. It's like when we first all got email or, how you used to get in the mail, the mailers, right? Like just advertisement after advertisement. Although I've noticed in the last couple of years, they've really come back. I think because people are like, nothing is working to get people's attention now, right? Like we can fast forward through commercials, we can, speed things up. And so it's easier to ignore. So let's just hit them harder. But really, you don't need that many clients. What you need is to be able to treat people like they're a person, you're a person, and that they're getting that like expert when they come to you. And I think that is a differentiator that is starting to go by the wayside. And again, I'm a huge fan of AI. It's not going anywhere. Do you need to understand how to use it in your business? Absolutely. But knowing how to use something in your business also means being able to discern when to use it and when to set it aside, when to be able to bring yourself and your skill set into a conversation to actually make the difference, to be the tipping point that is going to help you close that opportunity. So, obviously, the things that I think AI are fantastic at in sales is, giving you some options, asking it to suggest subject lines, right? And then you being able to pick and tweak. But even if I say to my AI assistant, give me a couple subject lines that, are targeted towards this type of buyer, a lot of times I then take pieces and parts, or I'll look at it and go, well, these are words that I don't use, and these are words that I teach my clients not to use. They're, overly used in the marketplace. You don't stand out when you use these types of phrases. So, how can I bring my own phrase? Like it's great for spurring ideas. I use it a lot for spurring ideas. It's great for call summaries. Yes, I love AI for call summaries. It's great to, get you some ideas to spur ideas. Like it's fantastic for first drafts. It's fantastic for, coming up with a prompt and seeing what it like spits back at you. I love all of those things. And remember that you need to add yourself into it. Don't miss this step, because I think what can sometimes happen is it's fast, right? Like I love things that are fast. I love efficient things. And so sometimes I think we go to what is fast, which in this case now is asking AI to give you a prompt or to give you a subject line or to write a message for you. But fast doesn't always mean right, and it doesn't always mean good, and it doesn't always connect, right? So think about what are some things that you might be trying to use AI for, but just aren't landing. Here's a few that come to mind for me. One, overcoming objections, handling objections. If you try to rely on AI to do this, I feel like most of the time it is such a miss, and it's a big miss. Like it's such a miss that it's going to drive somebody away. I had this happen not too long ago where a client reached out to me and she had had a situation that was not great interaction with a partner and with a like external like partner that they were doing business together. And she needed to she wanted to object to something that they were requesting. And so she wrote her response. She was very heated at the time. So already there's that piece to it. And then like plugged it into AI. And what it spit back, she was like, I don't know. Just something about this doesn't feel right. And so she sent it to me, and she's a coaching client. So asked me for some feedback on it. And immediately, like one, I could tell that there was an AI component to it. And two, I knew that if she sent this, it was probably going to dismantle the relationship. Like even though it wasn't written in like with the intent to be angry, the tone was clear. There was a little bit of like kind of drawing a line in the sand in the message. And it just was missing that like we want to keep the relationship intact. We want to keep the partnership going, and I need to stand up for myself. That was kind of the overall what we were looking for. So I can look at that message and just tweak a few phrases, right? Like instead of saying, you know, like here's, this request that you're asking for is unrealistic, right? Like what I went back and tweaked was like, in order to provide you with this, here is the price for that to happen. And then all of a sudden, so she took my response back and she was like, I'm really glad that I asked you for this, because she sent it to the partner, who then immediately said, oh, I didn't realize that what we were asking for wasn't an easy thing for you to provide. So don't even worry about it. And now, like everything, the water was smooth. But had she sent the message that she was going to send, it probably would have caused the relationship to completely implode, because she was taking it from like, this is a unrealistic request, this is a ridiculous thing that you're asking for, and I'm offended by it. But in reality, it turned out that the person that was asking for the thing didn't really realize that what they were asking for was unrealistic. And as soon as it was said back in a nice way, not in a condescending or a kind or a defensive way, well, now it's like, okay, no problem. Like, we're good, we're fine, everything is, on track. And that is where that, like, your emotional component, your human component has to come in, and relying too heavily on AI, because AI is taking its cues from you, right? So we got to make sure that we're thinking about relationship, we're thinking about how it's going to be perceived by the other person. And that to me is something that AI is still lacking. I'm working with it all the time when I'm asking it about like, what about this objection? What about this? Like, what could I improve in this particular piece of writing that I have that speaks directly to this? It's like, oh, it's still missing that, like the heartbeat, in my opinion. So, all right, think about this as we tend to wrap up. Um, you don't want to use I think, in overcoming objections. That is the piece where you want to step in and you want to be proficient at being able to do this. When you are thinking about your pricing and the way that you deliver pricing, AI is going to give you the like, this is what everybody else says and this is what everybody else does. And it rarely works because everybody else is saying the same thing. And so it's easy to tune out. You want to differentiate yourself when you're talking about your pricing. When there's some boundary situations that come up, that example that I gave about my client, these are prime opportunities for the human part of you to come in and think about the relationship and keeping the relationship intact. And how can you communicate it in a creative way that lands to the other person, doesn't shame anybody, doesn't, call anybody out, but keeps the relationship intact and keeps your boundaries. This is like not the time, in my opinion, to bring in AI. And then anything that requires that authentic, right? Like your thank yous, the things where, somebody does something for you and you want to acknowledge and recognize them. Don't let that human compartment, like that the human part of you that can show real gratitude and appreciation, like depend on AI. I think that is another place where it's like your authentic, genuine self should be shining through here. Okay, so as we wrap up this episode, there's a couple things I want to encourage you to think about. In sales, AI is the assistant. You are the closer. And if you're trying to get yourself out of the equation and you're selling any kind of service, coaching, training, design, anything where you are going to be a key component of the deliverable, make sure that you are showing up in that conversation so that they understand what they're getting and you're attracting your ideal clients. And when you are using AI to assist you, which I encourage you to do, make sure that you're thinking about how is it going to land to the other person? How is it going to be perceived by the reader or by the potential client when this message is sent to them? And review before you send things because, again, AI is using a lot of language that doesn't actually draw people to you. It's a lot of I statements. I can't tell you how much AI stuff that I have to rewrite for clients that's just riddled with I statements. I've been teaching this for years, like get your I statements out. And then they go back to AI, and AI is using the I statements, the if statements, the help phrases, all these things that are like, these do not equate to closing sales. And there's ways for you to communicate in a way that is going to land softly to the reader and encourage them to take action. So I'm not seeing it yet with AI being able to do that for you. So make sure that your human component is showing up in your business just as much as the AI component. All right. I'm wishing you continued success. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day.